expired, and I call the member for Dunkley.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Liberals are now in their 7th year in government. The 7th year. The economy is floundering, locals in my electorate of Dunkley are struggling, and the government has no plan to turn anything around. Australia's economy is growing at its slowest pace since the global financial crisis, which those on the other side of the chamber seem to want to pretend never occurred and Labor didn't steer us through, but we know that we did. Slowest pace since the GFC. Wages have stagnated. Almost 2 million Australians are looking for work or for more work. And if you want to meet some of those Australians, come to Frankston. Come and speak to some real workers who are struggling to look after their families. And living standards and productivity are going backwards. It seems that weak growth and failing confidence are the price we pay for a government which has a political strategy. It has smear and slur, but it has no plan for our economy. And one fact which stands out above all others, real household median income, that measure that is most commonly used to talk about overall living standards and assess them, is lower today than it was in 2013. Real household median income is lower today than it was in 2013. What an abysmal policy failure. The Prime Minister and the Treasurer, they have a populist political strategy. They like to come into this chamber and do a lot of yelling. But what do they have that resembles an economic plan for the people in my community that come to my office to ask for help to be able to buy food to put on the table for their children? What do they have for people in my electorate? Nothing. They won an election without any policies, but they've had 6 months since that election to do something, and they haven't done anything to have a comprehensive economic plan. We need a plan to turn the economy around, and we need it now. The Reserve Bank has told us they can't do all the heavy lifting. The RBA, the IMF, the OECD, they have all downgraded their forecast for Australia's economic growth. But this Liberal government has chosen to ignore all of these warnings, all of the warnings from economists. You don't have to listen to Labor if you don't want to. It seems your ears are blocked. Listen to the economists. Listen to the experts. Oh, that's right. Experts aren't very popular over there at the moment. You stubbornly refuse to act, this government, but it's time to act. Use my EFO. Don't just update forecasts. Outline an economic plan. Here's some options. Bring forward infrastructure projects. Genuinely bring them forward. In my electorate, the government promised the electrification of Baxter at the last election, put out flyers saying they were building it. Well, that wasn't mentioned in Morrison's recent great infrastructure announcement adventure around the country. Put your money where your mouth is and fund it. Bring forward stage 2 of the tax cuts, boost our middle class. Better yet, from a stimulus perspective and a social justice perspective, increase New Start to kickstart retail. Help people afford to live while they're looking for work. And how about you have a plan, a real plan to boost wages rather than returning to work choices? And just while I'm talking about IR for a moment, how many times have we heard in the last few weeks ministers of this government go to the dispatch box and try to claim credit for the Fair Work Commission increasing the minimum wage, despite the Liberal government putting in submissions saying it shouldn't be increased? And yet, when we mention the cuts to penalty rates, oh no, the Fair Work Commission is independent, we're not responsible for that. And we possibly couldn't even come into this place, this Liberal government, and do your job and vote for legislation that would have restored penalty rates. We want to take credit for something the Fair Work Commission does, but you just walk away and won't restore penalty rates and say they're independent. What hypocrites. And finally, if you want to do something as part of an economic plan that will actually achieve something, take some action on climate change. Have a real national energy policy, support job creation in renewable energy and the jobs of the future. I think the last person who was a Liberal who said the word innovation was Malcolm Turnbull. How about, government, invest in innovation? Stop cutting the CSIRO, stop attacking scientists, stop ignoring the jobs of the future, invest in our community,
Member's time has
increase—
expired, and I call the member for Chisholm.